You think the open road is freedom, miles of cracked asphalt stretching into nowhere, the sun on your face, the wind slipping through the car windows. But sometimes silence hides something far worse than the darkness, something that waits, something that hunts. I'm Mark, and what happened to me that night was not supposed to happen. It began as a simple road trip with friends, a cemetery to visit, memories to honor. But what we found was a nightmare built of flesh, bone, and steel. A farm in the middle of nowhere, a family that should never have existed, and a chainsaw that became the heartbeat of hell itself. Let's rewind time to the start of what would become a nightmare beyond comprehension. It was a hot July afternoon. The sky was a cloudless expanse of blue, mocking us with its innocence as we hurtled down a deserted country road. My sister Claire, her cousin Richard, who was forever bound to a wheelchair, and our friends Dana and Joel were all crammed into my old rattling station wagon. Richard was unusually quiet, but excitement shone in his eyes. He clutched a map on his lap. We were on our way to visit the gravesite of our grandfather, a man whose memory seemed distant, yet whose loss still resonated deep within us. The journey was supposed to be about remembrance, not a descent into hell. The miles rolled by, each one adding to the oppressive heat. The wind that had teased through the open windows now carried the smell of decay. It wasn't sweet like honeysuckle or fresh like cut grass. It was the stench of ages past, of things left to rot. The silence between us was heavy, punctuated only by the insects buzzing in the vast emptiness. Our destination, a forgotten cemetery on the edge of the state. Even the headstones were weathered and worn, bearing silent witness to countless seasons of neglect. We paid our respects, placing flowers on the graves and sharing stories of the man whose spirit rested here. But the air hung heavy with foreboding. It was as if the very ground beneath us was holding its breath. But our ordeal was far from over. As we turned to leave, Richard pointed to a dirt road barely visible through the weeds. "There's a shortcut," he said, his voice tight with anticipation. "It cuts hours off our drive." But his eyes held a wild glint that made me uneasy. My gut screamed at me, warning me of unseen dangers, but I let curiosity override caution. "Let's see where it leads," I said, my voice betraying my own unease. The others nodded, eager for the adventure that lay ahead. And so we began our descent into the unknown. The road was barely more than a goat path. Overgrown weeds whipped against the car, and fallen branches scraped against the roof like skeletal fingers. The sun, once high and mocking, was now a distant memory behind a wall of leaves. The air grew colder, damp and heavy, as if the trees themselves were pressing in on us. And then the engine died. Silence descended, heavy and suffocating, amplifying every rustle and snap. Fear, palpable and cold, tightened its grip around my heart. We were trapped in a living tomb. That's when we saw it, an anomaly amidst the oppressive green, a farmhouse. The sight of it sent a chill down my spine. It was crooked, dwarfed by the dense trees surrounding it, as if deliberately concealed from prying eyes. Its paint was peeling, revealing rotting wood beneath, and the windows were vacant, hollow sockets staring blindly into the gloom. Hope surged through me, quickly followed by a new wave of apprehension. The door creaked open, as if inviting us in. The stench that hit us was overpowering, a mix of decaying wood, stagnant water, and something else. something metallic and sharp, like the coppery tan of blood. Inside, the darkness was absolute, broken only by the slimmest sliver of moonlight filtering through a grimy window. Shapes shifted in the gloom, faces seemed to materialize from the shadows. Eyes glinted like predatory slits. We weren't alone. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing eerily in the vast emptiness. The response was silent, heavy, pregnant with menace. My blood ran cold. The silence spoke volumes, whispering tales of unspeakable horrors lurking just beyond our sight. Then they emerged from the darkness, figures coalescing like nightmares given form. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural luminescence, and their faces were obscured by grotesque masks crafted from what looked like human skin. They shuffled towards us, their movements jerky, their bodies twisted at unnatural angles. Their leader, the butcher, was a giant of a man, muscles corded beneath his filthy clothes, and a belt with an obscene number of loops hung from his waist. His face was hidden behind a mask so realistic it was sickening. Stitches crisscrossed its surface, and what looked like congealed blood painted grotesque designs across the leather. In his right hand he held a chainsaw, and as he brought it to life, the sound tore through the silence like a banshee's wail. The air thrummed with the noise, vibrating in my bones. Before any of us could react, the butcher took a step forward, and the chainsaw ripped through the air. In a flash, Joel was gone, his scream abruptly cut off, replaced by the horrifying rasp of metal teeth tearing flesh. Dana screamed and ran, but it was too late. The butcher lunged, his mask contorted in a snarl. The rest of the figures surged forward, their eyes gleaming with a predatory hunger. Richard was dragged away, his chair clattering to the floor. I could only watch in horror as two of the creatures pinned him down. Claire and I were frozen in place, our minds struggling to comprehend the nightmare that had unfolded. Then, as if jolted from a dream, I sprang into action. There was nowhere to go, nothing to hide, but we had to try. Bursting through a side door, we plunged into the suffocating darkness of the night. The trees pressed close, their branches clawing at us like skeletal fingers. Behind us, the chainsaw roared again, a sound that promised unimaginable pain and death. Each ragged breath scorched my throat. My legs burned with exertion, but there was no rest for me. I could hear the lumbering steps of our pursuers, their heavy footfalls pounding like hammers on the coffin lid of my hope. I pulled Claire along, my heart hammering against my ribs, threatening to burst free. The woods seemed to stretch endlessly, taunting us with their suffocating embrace. The moon, a distant, indifferent eye in the sky, cast long, distorted shadows that danced around us like grotesque puppets, but there was no escape. No matter how far we ran, the nightmare was relentless. Every twist of the path, every fallen log, every thicket of thorny bushes was another opportunity for them to catch us, to claim us as their next victims. Suddenly, through the trees, I saw a glimmer of light, a beacon in the suffocating darkness. I stumbled towards it, praying it would lead us to safety. But as we emerged into a clearing, my hopes were dashed. The farmhouse loomed before us, its windows glowing like the eyes of a predator. We had come full circle, back to the place where our torment began. With a surge of adrenaline, I raced towards a battered truck that stood half hidden in the shadows. I pounded on its hood, desperate to attract attention, to plead for help. And then the headlights flared on, momentarily blinding me. The engine roared to life, sending a flock of startled birds scattering into the night. As the truck surged forward, I threw myself onto the back, gasping for breath, my whole body trembling with exhaustion and terror. The driver slammed the brakes hard, and I looked back, my heart sinking. The butcher stood at the road's edge, his chainsaw still screaming its deadly song. In his eyes I saw a flicker of something akin to disappointment, as if he had hoped we would stay. The truck lurched forward, carrying me away from the nightmare, away from the haunting melody of the chainsaw and the butcher with his hungry grin and eyes that held the darkness of 1,000 nights. I survived, but survival doesn't erase what I saw. Every shadow, every creak, every chainsaw in the distance takes me back to that night. That farm marked me. If you love terrifying horror experiences that will haunt your nightmares, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. Give this video a thumbs up and comment below. Do you believe in evil families hiding in the woods? Because some secrets are buried deep for a reason, and some chainsaws never stop running. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay safe. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows waiting to hunt.